Well, so yeah, I got sick and well, I don't know what this thing is. It's still here. Like I didn't sleep last night because I was coughing up
Man,
a storm.
congestion
But
sucks.
it's just that.
Allergies
But
suck.
that's only it. There's nothing else. I feel golden except when I sleep.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that chest cough. But it
it's
makes me sound a little bit more like
radio.
micro.
You've got a radio voice now. You got a voiceover voice.
You're listening to NPR. We are about to start with our first guest, Stephen Stevens, jazz player for 9 years with the orchestra. That's all I got.
That was
All
good.
right.
I wish I had an audio because I would start playing it like jazz right there. It would have been perfect.
You can add it in post.
I'll
Isn't
add
that
it
the.
in. But
Anyways,
we were riffing off not off camera, but before we actually pressed record,
yeah.
about kind of like the central topic today, which I'm sure will take many turns and twists like the mountains. But we have a tendency, like dads, we have a never-ending to-do list. I've got it on my iPhone. I've got an app on the desktop. I've got written books full of to-do lists. And I noticed over the years, a correlation between me completing home tasks, work tasks, even like parenting tasks, and kind of getting bogged down energy wise. And I think one of the main reasons that we just talked about, and I want to riff on it today, is the fact that I don't think dads celebrate, right? We celebrate birthday. Well, sometimes we celebrate birthdays. I think the older you
Yeah.
get, you're like, meh, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for the socks. But why do you think, or give me your opinion on celebration when it comes to like work, when it comes to even parenting? Like when we finally get something right, or we feel like we got something right, we're just
Yeah.
like, okay, move on to the next thing. They got older. So
You
why
know,
don't dads celebrate? Do you celebrate? Like,
I, I celebrate we celebrate some things, but I think it's just your typical, like the
mm,
birthdays and the anniversaries and
mm,
the that kind of thing. But I mean, I think let's say I do like 1% better than the average maybe, and the
mm,
average isn't that good. I feel like our culture is not we've lost the art of ritual and ceremony a bit,
mhm,
right?
agree.
And the hustle. I think the hustle in my head, hustling is a bad word.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, there's working hard, but people have put the hustle up on a pedestal,
Hmm.
and these are fighting words.
Yeah.
I'll take you on. Everybody who's listening who wants who elevates the hustle. We're just not very good at a lot of things like rest, but also not very good at sitting in the win
Yeah.
or memorializing a moment
Yeah.
and enjoying it.
It almost feels
So
bad, right? It feels like almost
yeah,
like
like I'm doing
culturally.
something wrong.
Yeah, like culturally, we've been taught that no, 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 you keep that down. You shouldn't celebrate, even though it's something you might have spent days, months, years, working up that mountain to finally got the top of it, put your flag in, and everyone's like, shh, 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 don't celebrate.
Yeah, yeah. And the reason we started talking about this was because I finished a huge,
Drum
huge
roll.
project. Da-doom. The trailer is finished. It's been 2 years.
Fireworks in the
I
background.
Oh my goodness. For those of you who don't know, who don't follow me on the Instagram, I've
Which you
been
should.
building, yeah, as
Which
you
you
should.
should.
Gillyworks at Gillyworks. Get after it. Gillyworks with an X at the end. Okay, tagged. Um, there, there. I bought a teardrop trailer in February of 2022, and uh, thought, hey, I'll use some house savings on it, and we'll just get this pumped out in a couple weeks, and
Hmm.
I'll make some money because I'm not buying a house anytime soon. Well, that's a long story and a different
That's
story for another
another
day.
podcast episode.
But we ended up buying a house shortly after that. And therefore, well, this will tie in later about house projects too. It sat for a long time, and then I worked on it for a long time. So I don't know whether it was 500 hours, 600 hours, 1,000 hours. There's a lot of hours
A lot of hours.
built on
Yeah.
this thing, and I'm just sitting here. And thankfully, I gotta give a little shout out to my wife. She was like, we have to let's like go to dinner and celebrate, like let's do
Yeah.
something. And it's like almost like it's like, oh yeah, I get, can I, yeah, yeah, okay, I want to show it off to people. So, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna drive down the street to my buddy's house and just show it to him just
Just
because.
slowly roll by in the cul-de-sac. Like, hey, look what I got.
Yeah, like I worked so hard on this.
Yes.
And so, I'm like trying to tell myself that it's okay to celebrate and to
Yeah.
take a day off. It's like
Yeah.
almost like it's hard when you don't have a boss telling you like, hey, this is your time, enjoy it. So because I'm my own boss, I need to tell myself that.
And even if you did have a boss, like realistically, does that really happen? It might be like a
No,
lunch,
no.
you know what I mean? Like that's about
Yeah.
it. But
And
quick
then the
shout
boss is
out
like, get back
to
to work.
all the wives, the partners that make dads celebrate, right? Because I think dads have a tendency to put head down, keep rocking forward.
Yeah.
And for me, like in the past, it was definitely one of the culprits as far as leading to kind of burnout or like lack of motivation, right? Like I get into these lulls where like after big projects that anyone in their right mind would be like, wow, that was amazing. I'm like, I'm kind of tired. Like, and the thing is, if
Yeah.
I don't celebrate, I start teaching my body, my subconscious that it's a grind, it's a hustle, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's the thing is, as soon as I started like celebrating, and not only that, as parents, right, we want to teach our kids that you should celebrate your wins, no matter how small, right, how big. And the more that you celebrate your wins, it almost entices you to want to do it more, right? On the next
Yeah.
project, the bigger projects, like, hey, I've taught my body how to work hard, and it knows it's going to celebrate at the end. So I'm ready for the next project. So yeah,
Yep.
celebration for dads. Quick again, shout out to the moms that force dads to go get a pizza party or something like that. So.
That's right. So how does that look like? What does that look like for you on the projects that you find yourself in? What's
So over the years, it was kind of lackluster, kind of like I was forced to, like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, let's go celebrate. Might be a dinner or something like that. But then when
Yeah.
I took it as seriously as scheduling my time, as seriously as being present with my kids and my spouse, I'm like, no, when I plan a project now, there's actually a part of the project at the end to celebrate. And it might be like for instance, if I was working on the trailer like you were, it'd be a weekend trip. It'd be like a 3-day. We're gonna go somewhere because the family. You're not the only one working on the project, right? The family's working on the project because you're not there as much, or you're
Yeah.
trading
Yeah.
time. So like the win for me is a win for the family. So on any major project, home or work, we're doing a trip. It's usually like a staycation. I'm in SoCal, so we'll probably go down to San Diego for the weekend or something like that. And for
Yeah.
me, it's a time to not only reflect on how much effort and time and money went into a project, but it actually gives me time to reset, right? To recoup, spend good quality time with the family, and I'm right back on it. When we get back, what's next? Everyone feels like they've been seen and taken care of during that celebratory weekend, and we get back to it.
Yeah.
On the smaller tasks, it could be literally, and I know this is like the minutia, but checking that box, just the facts like the tasky stuff of the day, like there's some kind of reward at the end of the day to be able to see my phone with the notes and 4 out of 5 things checked, right? Like for me, my little mini celebration might be putting some music on, maybe going to the park. That's the kind of things, the small things versus the big things. But there's already a ritual around, hey, like let's celebrate this. How about you?
Yeah. So,
What's celebration look like for you?
well, I want to point what you're saying out real quick.
Mhm.
Put a pin in that because, or a gold star. The so what you do with the little things
Mhm.
translates over to the big things.
They
Is
do.
what you're saying, right?
Mhm.
So I like that. I mean, because that's what makes it feel good when I'm doing the things that I'm trying to do in a weekly rhythm.
Mhm.
You know, um, checking the boxes, actually having written them down or what have you.
Mhm.
So I know, hey, I didn't waste any time this week. I'm really forgetful, so it's nice to look back at a whole list and be like, I checked all of that off.
And I did a
Wow.
lot of work. I did a lot
Yeah.
of stuff this week. Yeah.
Hey, this is a job well done. Instead of just being like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Yeah.
Um, so yes, so you're asking what does that look like for myself? Man, I just had a baby. It's she's a little over 3 months now. So I feel like I
She's
can't
the cutest,
remember.
by the way, the cutest
Oh my
baby you've
goodness.
ever seen. So
It's fantastic. My wife pumps out some really cute kids. So it's I think I feel like everything's in limbo. I'm like, wait, what is normal life? I don't know. I don't remember.
Mhm.
Um, but in general, yeah, like something that we've been trying to do, and I don't know if this even answers the question exactly. I don't want to go off topic, but we were just talking about this today. Is um, you know, like we've talked about in previous episodes, is as parents, your parents, you've said this, you work with the tools that you have available
Mhm.
to add to your toolbox. So we can't. I like that because it's not we. Some people can get really upset with their parents from the past and say like,
Mhm.
why didn't you do all these things? But like those tools didn't even exist then. So like you're a product of some of your environment to an
Mhm.
extent. So anyways, um we're going, hey, what do we have available to us? What tools can we add to our toolbox as we grow our family, and how can we be intentional? And that
Mhm.
brings me to the point that I'm trying to make, is that um, you know I think my wife's really good at this, just kind of asking the question of like, how do we elevate this experience a little bit? Mother's Day is coming up,
Mhm.
so these episodes are going to be released after the fact,
Yes. Yeah.
but nevertheless, I was talking with her about Mother's Day, and the typical thing, I don't know, I just for in the past, it was always, like when we were kids, it was just like, make sure you get a card and flowers, and
Yep.
like, I mean, there's the checkbox. It's like, did you get the candy? Did you get the flowers? Did you get
Mhm.
the card? You know, um, but I really want to produce in my own children, and I want to think this way too. Is just
Mhm.
how do I elevate that? Like, what's the heart? Well, the heart is like, I want to celebrate mom.
Mhm.
I want the kids to know, like, we're doing this throughout the year too. Hopefully the moms feel appreciated more than once a year.
Yes.
That's a whole nother
That's
conversation.
another conversation.
Okay, but how do we express the appreciation that we have for her? How can we personalize this a bit more? Because yes, yeah, hey, my wife loves cards and flowers, absolutely, but she's getting those a lot of other times. That's
Exactly.
kind of yeah, that just happens.
It's standard, right? It's
So
like
it's
it's the
standard.
standard. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like last Wednesday. Okay, that's not. So for Mother's Day, what can we do to show, the things that we appreciate, whether it's a handwritten note, or it's something
Mhm.
that we crafted, or something that we sing, or whatever,
Mhm.
like, so,
Mhm.
how can we serve her? So I guess that's what I'm getting at, is for those types of celebratory things, we really get into the question of how do we elevate this moment. I guess I do that kind of professionally too.
Mhm.
Maybe shout out right now to The Power of Moments by
Mm.
Chip and Dan Heath, I believe. I love that book. I've taken, when I've been in volunteer leadership and whatnot in the past, professionally, I always broke out that book and I took people through trainings in that,
Mhm.
because it's a fantastic question to ask, is just how do we elevate this experience? And there's just so many different opportunities to make people feel special, to really empower people, or to thank them, or to just make the most of a moment. So that includes celebration, as what we're talking about
Mhm.
today. Hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully I'm not running around in circles.
No, no, no. You're still on track.
Yeah,
I can see how now you've taken the what might have once been passive as far as celebration and actually putting effort into it, right? It's no longer just meeting the status quo as far as like flowers, card on birthdays in a few days, but like how do we make this one not a special day occasion type of thing, but regular? And then two, how do we do it so that the person or persons involved actually feels like it's more about them versus a day of the year? Is that like it's your birthday? Obviously, yeah, everyone celebrates with cake and candles, but how do we show our love for that individual or our love for the accomplishment, right? Or the results set of said project, and how do we elevate that? So that's awesome, man.
yeah,
I don't think a lot of men, I don't think a lot of dads actually sit down and think about like, I think a lot of us tend to look at those things as box checkers, right? As versus tasky, like, oh, Mother's Day, birthday, anniversary, like, okay, check the box, don't forget flowers. Whereas, like, how do we celebrate our loved ones throughout the year? And I think that's very similar to the reason why we celebrate at the end of the projects, because it kind of remotivates us, re-energizes us to do the next project. And I know in my relationships, when we celebrate throughout the year, and I think it's environment. Like, I grew up in an environment that, we're not only going to celebrate you on your birthday, other reasons to celebrate you throughout the year. So now you feel good throughout the year versus just waiting and hoping they remember my birthday, right? And usually
Yeah,
when I hear that, it's because you're not being celebrated any other part of the year, right? It's only on your birthday or only on your anniversary that you talk about your love for each other, right? So it's kind of
yeah,
cool that you guys are now creating rituals, right? Family rituals
yep,
around this.
yep, yep. And so, we're kind of touching, I guess, on two different, I mean, same concept, but two
Mhm.
different things of like, celebrating within family context and
Mhm.
celebrating within like work
The work.
context.
Mhm.
Like I would say for me, my weakness, the thing that is harder is taking moments to celebrate the wins in my work.
I
Yeah,
was gonna say
there's
the same thing. Right?
you would say that applies to you as well.
100%. It's way easier for me to celebrate loved ones, friends, coworkers, and I actually get excited about that, the planning, like all that stuff. But when it comes to me, I'm less likely to going to put in the same effort, right? And if you're listening to this, watching this later, just take a moment to think about that. We put in so much effort to celebrate, support, care for others, and yet as dads, a lot of times we're not putting the same amount of effort in celebrating or caring for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. So that's something I got to take away and kind of, establish, I guess. I'm
Mhm.
kind of in this funny realm of, I've been a full time dad for the last, 2.5 years. Um, but now I'm starting to look into like, I kind of want to start like my own business a little bit
Mhm.
more officially, in the spare time that I have. So that's going to be something that I add to the list. It's just like, hey, how do I, we, we over here at Gillyworks, myself,
Exactly.
um,
The whole
how do
team
I
of
celebrate?
I.
Yes, the whole team of high. Because yeah, well, and there's a lot that goes into that, right? I'm
Yeah.
kind of a procrastinator too, right? So man, or I think of a lot of good ideas, but they're last minute. So I'm wrestling. I'm finishing. I finished this massive table for some friends. Literally put the last finish on, wrapped it up, and we threw it in the moving truck before they went across the state or across the country.
Mhm.
So it's like I never get to sit with any of my pieces that I do because it's like, okay, that's done. Send it. That's done. Send it. That's why with this trailer, I'm like, I want to go. I'm gonna try. I very much love to, if it's not bought already, go and camp in it.
That'd be
Just
awesome.
just sit and stare at it a little bit.
Yeah, and that's part of the
So
celebration, right? That's all your hard work and all your hard effort. It's kind of like I can only imagine maybe early on if you were a chef, you'd get the same scenario. You put all this time and effort in making this amazing meal, but you're not even eating it.
yeah, you never get to
You know what I mean?
taste it.
You never get to taste or eat it.
Fruits of your labor.
Exactly. And I think, you never get to celebrate any of it. And I know this might be a tangent, but I know for me, for many years, I struggled with, and this is more specifically work projects, but I'd finish work projects, especially as an entrepreneur, and you're just like, it's like buckets in a sinking boat, right? You're like, I got to do the next thing. I got to do the next thing. And what happens is I noticed for me, and I noticed for a handful of clients I've worked with over the years, just around lifestyle management, stress management, is that we have a tendency to want to feel busy, like the chaos of putting out fires, because we've been doing it for so long that we start to fear boredom, right? Like not doing anything.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I really switched, my posture or frame on, as soon as I finish something, it's great to be bored. It's great not to be busy, because busy doesn't always mean productive, right? Like
Nope.
there's been days as dads, like especially stay at home dads or work from home dads, where you're busy, like until dinner time. You stop and you look back and you're like, I don't think I did anything today. Like I don't remember finishing anything because I do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So
Yeah.
for me, the biggest change was creating a system, not only of celebration, but the fact that, when I'm done with something, if I am bored, it means I have good systems in place. It means things are still getting done and they're done at the appropriate time. I'm not just doing stuff to do stuff. And as soon as I created systems for that, it allowed more time for celebration, right? So in work
Yeah.
and in relationship. So that's what I want to kind of tee up, was the fact that, man, there was years that I was just like, I don't feel burnt out, but my body told me I was burnt out. And one of the correlations was like, because you're like a hamster in a hamster wheel just getting stuff done, and that's awesome, but like the wheels are going to come off on this puppy. Like I'm going to be literally burning myself out. And so once I realized that, it's like, okay, first off, it's hard in the beginning. And you mentioned entrepreneurship. Yes, in the beginning, you're the jack of all trades. You have to wear all the hats. But as soon as you can, start to delegate, outsource, it allows you that time freedom. And then time freedom to be bored is even better. But that definitely comes down the line.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we definitely do not allow ourselves that time, or nor do we feel comfortable with it at
No,
first. I think that's something you have to almost you have to learn how to do, is just be quiet,
to be
be
still,
bored, you know.
right? To be still,
Um,
hard being still.
yes, this day and age with all the technology that we have too,
Oh,
we don't
dude.
even allow ourselves that. And I think, I mean, I feel like that's uh deprecating. What's the word? I mean, it's really not helping.
It is. No.
I'm bad at this. I'm saying this is not good. This is tough for me.
And I think it
To
plays into
just sit.
yeah, and what we're talking about plays into the whole celebration thing. We don't celebrate, we don't sit, we're not still, and we
Yep.
wonder why our tanks are on empty, right? We wonder why we're getting short. We wonder why motivation has disappeared all of a sudden,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's because we're always stimulated. We're always on to the next thing. What's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Yep. Two amazing books that I read a while back on the hustle is one's called To Hell with the Hustle by Jeff Bethke, and another one's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark
Ooh.
Comer. Oh boy, those ones are
We're gonna
heavy
we're gonna
hitters.
tag those in the show notes for sure. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
if you're a reader like we are, right, then you definitely want to start a list of books for reference, right, for motivation, for inspiration, or a lot of times just to know that you're on the right path, right? It's nice to read and be like, oh, I'm doing about 80% of this, so that's great. Let's
Oh
keep
yeah.
moving. So
Yeah, yeah. Those ones were good challenges against the status quo of hustle and hurry. But then, yeah, throw the power of moments on there too,
yeah,
because that one. Oh man, that applies to dads. That applies to CEOs. That applies to everyone.
yes,
Really good one. But anyways, something else I wanted to bring up. What if we go back to family celebration?
okay,
What something is? We've talked about this. This kind of dives into the topic of communication again,
hmm
but it's worth bringing up every single time because I feel like we as dads don't do this well, generally speaking. Um, Something that has been very helpful in our marriage has been for my wife and I to really communicate about what our expectations or what our hopes are
hmm
for birthdays, for Mother's Day. So we're talking about Mother's Day, and like, I understand I want to hear your thoughts on this too.
okay,
Feel
okay.
free. I again give you permission to crush anything that I've said too.
No,
Respectfully, of course. I can take it. But we find that there are certain people out there that would love to be surprised. So there's certainly times to be for surprises. Um, but more often than not, I would say the true value has come in really talking through, hey, what would make you feel loved? What would make you feel joy in this moment, whatever it is. So
hmm
for us, because Mother's Day is this weekend, we're talking about like what would you like? Because sometimes some seasons you're like, oh, I could really use a break, and so
hmm
more for that for some moms, they need to get out and have a little bit of relaxation. For other moms, it's like, it's Mother's Day, right? So we were like, well, we really want to spend time with kids. Like that's the whole point. They're that they made us parents. So, yeah, we kind of just talk through it. What does that ratio look like? How much do you want rest? You want sleep? You want fun? You want family time? So that always helps. And I feel like a lot of people think that's not allowed. Like,
Mm.
oh, I can't ask. I'm supposed to know. And you know what? There are plenty of wives out there who would say, yeah, you're supposed to know. You're supposed to know. But man, if I had Deb here, I need to bring her in on an episode to
Yes,
talk
I
about
guess.
this. But
Yeah, I
we
guess for a future episode.
we almost do coaching like with our friends on this, because a lot of people just come and
Oh,
they've been
100%.
talking like, oh, I don't understand why he won't do this for me. I don't understand why he doesn't like know. And Deb is always the first one to say, like, did you
Did
did
you
you
ask
ask?
them?
Did
Yeah.
you talk? Did you tell him that that's but well, no. Do I am I supposed to? Well, yeah, because that's gonna help. And oh boy.
So the two things that popped in my head was the seasons, right? That's definitely true in our household and the families that we've like in our friend circle, our extended circles. So I'm thinking the seasons, and that's where communication comes in, right? Like, hey, do you want to just have a spa day at home, or do you want to paint the nails of the kids? Like, like what does that look like? And that changes for seasons. Now, as far as the expectations and relationships, and this is just my experience, I think it comes with the age of the relationship. So I think in the
Ah,
early stages, I think for some couples, the awe and the wow of surprises is still a key component of the relationship,
yeah,
right?
okay,
Because we're still we it's almost to the point where like that excitement is what keeps us going. Now, I think that's a fallacy, but I think a lot of couples like the surprise, bring the friends in birthdays. Like for Mo, that would be the exact opposite that she would want, right?
yeah, yeah,
So as we have grown together, right, you start to learn how, like, the four love languages, so on and so forth.
yep,
But you start to learn, like, what's the best way to let them know that they're being seen, right? And so not only is it seasons, but with communications, like, and this is one of the things that we did, and we used to get kickback on this early on from our other couple friends, but I think this was after our first, and we were just get bogged down. I started the first brick and mortar business. I was there 14-hour days. She was working. We were trying to be the best version of parents as we can during that season. But birthdays would come up, anniversaries would come up, all that kind of stuff come up. But I would want to celebrate her outside of those days too. And I think that takes time too. I think as you grow in your relationship, you start to find ways. The surprise comes from not doing it on that day, right? Like, I'm only going to celebrate my spouse on our anniversary, her birthday, and Mother's Day. It's like, no, there's 362 other days out there. Like, we could be celebrating more. So I think that's the part of the surprise we have now, is the fact that I honor and surprise the fact that it's not on those days, right? Like, for instance, she might have had
yeah,
like a killer breakthrough at work or a really hard week at work where it's like, oh, I got a surprise babysitter for this Saturday. We're gonna go out to dinner, and that enough is filling the tank,
oh
right?
yeah,
So I think it comes in the seasons of the relationship. So back to what I was telling the story, the thing that drove my friends crazy, and now some of them actually do this, was with that first baby with the business. We're like, hey, I want to make sure we're gift givers and gift receivers. Like, we love gifts, right?
yeah,
Big, small, doesn't matter. Just the fact that you were paying attention, right? Like, I really like that. So we both, in this, I think this was like 2010, 2011, early adopters of Pinterest. So
yeah,
what we did
uh-huh,
was we created Pinterest boards with all the stuff that I like. She created a Pinterest board with all the stuff that she likes. So when I had kind of the urge to surprise her, I would get something off that Pinterest board. So one, it didn't come during a birthday, anniversary, Mother's Day, and two, it was something she really wanted, right? So
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
win-win versus like, oh, thanks for these Lakers tickets. I don't watch football, right? It's like one of those things, right? And so this way, we
yeah,
kind of we kind of guaranteed it. And so it also throughout the year was fun because then I got to start to look for things that I really wanted that I'm kind of hoping she would get. And it was a fun way to still stir the romance and the love in a sense that when I'm going out, I'm like, ooh, she mentioned something about those shoes. I'm gonna take a picture of it, right? And if it comes up
yeah,
on the Pinterest board, I know that's a win and a win, right? Whereas in the past, I know as a dad or as a man myself, whenever my kids would say something, a client or my wife, I was like, that's exactly what they want. Like, no, 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 just mentioning it. Though that purse looks really nice. Does that mean you want one? It's like, no, just mentioning. So that's where the Pinterest board came in, right? It was something that it allowed me to still have fun throughout the year, thinking of my spouse throughout the whole year, and B,
Yeah.
when it came time, it was always something like, oh, that's amazing. I needed that. It's exactly what I wanted, so on and so forth.
Genius.
Right?
Genius move.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Well, and see, that gives that visual. I'm a visual guy.
Me
I
too.
like that idea
Me
because
too.
of the visual of that. We actually have something a little similar, but it's just, like a shared list on
Yeah.
our phone.
Same thing.
So we got like the gift list.
I love it.
Um and that, yeah, that's great. But to like be referencing that and kind of having like a feel for what the
Mhm.
things are, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So
Pinterest does still exist. I
it
haven't been
does.
there in a long
I
time.
haven't been there forever, except for roughly to check the board once in a while.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
like you said, I think in relationships and celebrating each other, I think seasons of the relationship does matter. And I think, like you guys, probably like we're not really big into like surprise. There's 15 people in our living room. Happy birthday, right? It's more like surprise. We've saved up for 3 years, and we're gonna go to Hawaii because I know you mentioned it and you really wanted to go. Like that's the surprise. That hey, I'm paying attention and I'm making an effort to fulfill something bigger than the cards, the chocolate, the flowers, stuff like that.
yes. Oh, yes, 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 yes. So that's fantastic, and that goes both ways too. A little note is like, hey guys, don't forget, you know, you also have to know kind of like what you want too.
Mhm.
Because we're not good at that. It's so funny because I like the gifts too, but
My
when I have to
board would
think
be like
about it,
one thing,
yeah,
right?
I'm like,
Right?
wait, I don't know, or it's like everything expensive. It's like, I could use a new $2,500 lathe. That would be awesome. Maybe an Indian Scout or an Indian Chief motorcycle. I'll
Yeah.
take that. I'll take that.
Let's
You
start a
know.
GoFundMe for that, right?
Yeah. No. So, yeah, you gotta give too. You gotta give ideas as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it took me a
Yeah.
while to become a good receiver, right? Like I'm of the personality type that's really good. I'd be the first person to help you move, right? I'd be the first person people call for help. But I very rarely early on would ask for help, either in the relationship or in work, right? Because I thought it was supposed to look a certain way. But it wasn't until I started becoming a better receiver,
Ah.
giving just took another level. Like it made
Ooh.
it even better, right? Because I was feeling all the stuff that they were feeling versus like, am I doing a good job as a parent, as a partner, right? As a business owner, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, whew, that's some good stuff. We covered. I'd say we had covered a
We did like three
a
topics
wide
today.
a wide swath there of, yeah, of nuggets. I
Yeah.
feel like the people have stuff to write down now, guys. You gotta go write it down. Listen to
Yeah.
this again. Take
Not only
notes.
that, in the comments, um,
Yeah.
now I'm now this is an assumption, and I apologize if this doesn't fit your personality type and stuff like that. But if you're going if you're stuck in this kind of loop of work, 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 right? Busy, 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 and you want to start celebrating, I want to put in the comments what's the one thing like how are you going to celebrate your next project, right? Your next work project, home project. How are you going to celebrate? I'd love to see what other dads do to
Yes.
celebrate their wins. Right?
Yes.
Is it a weekend trip? Are you going to purchase that lathe, or for me, put a down payment on that lathe? Right? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like how do you celebrate? I'd love to know how other dads celebrate just as a fun way to grow this community, right? Like you might see like 15 people post that lathe that Travis just mentioned. They're like, "Oh, that's our people. We're speaking the same language," right?
Yes.
So let us know in the
Yes.
comments. How do you guys celebrate? How do you celebrate wins, big and small? Right? We need to celebrate, especially as dads, head of the household, all those kind of like archetypes. I think one of the things that's not been shined the light on is the fact that as dads, we need to be celebrated, right? We need to celebrate ourselves as much as we do others.
Yep. Yep. And with that, I told you last time, I made a promise, Rob. I said, I will not forget. I will not forget
I know where this
our
is going.
fun topic, the fun that we were about to have that I didn't start with. Well, see, we didn't start with it because we were already in conversation.
But I can.
Sometimes you just got to
That's the
press the
great thing
red
about
button.
editing, though. I could literally just Put
Well,
this
hey,
in
guess
the
what,
beginning.
guys? We already did it.
You
Man,
missed it.
already done. That
You
was
missed it.
great. Yeah, but it's there for them. So,
Exactly.
I want to revisit our tuning in to one another.
Oh my goodness.
I
Okay.
need to. I want to see how many times it takes for us to get the same word.
Okay.
So we're doing say the same word.
This might be
Uh,
a time lapse too. If you're watching this on video later, just heads up. Might
8 hours
be
later.
yeah.
Yeah,
Fish.
no, we did it.
Got it. Right? Yeah.
We did it in 5 rounds last time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was pretty. I think that was pretty amazing. I don't know
I
if
still
that's like a
remember barbell. I was so close to saying barbell on round 4, right? Go
yeah.
back, watch the episode. You'll understand that reference.
Yep. 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 Oh, that was a good one. Okay, so you ready? Let's get this going. Think of a
Okay.
word. Let me give you a minute. A second. A second.
Okay.
Okay. You got a word?
I got a word. I got a word.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do it.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Forest.
Birthday. Okay, you said
Birthday.
forest?
Yep.
Okay.
That was my word.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. You got another word?
Yeah, based on what we just said, I'm good.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Camping.
Tree.
Oh, we're getting closer.
Oh.
Forest,
Okay. All right.
tree,
All right.
camping.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. 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 Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Trailer.
Fire. Okay. Okay.
I can see it now, right? We're
Yes.
camping. We got the
Yeah.
fire. We got the
Yeah.
tree.
I'm
Okay.
in. I'm in the zone.
We're in the
I'm in the
zone.
area. Okay. All right. You ready? We're
I,
camping.
I got a word.
We got the fire. We got a.
I got it.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
S'mores.
S'mores.
Ladies and gentlemen, if
Guys,
you
we're
could
good
see
at
the
this.
video, this is literally our first take. And
Yep.
then edit that. This is our first take. Now edit that again. This is our first take. Okay.
Oh man. See, we're good at this.
We're
Okay,
good.
I think this is the status quo. What was that 4?
I think that was 4, right?
Yeah, because I said forest,
Forest,
then I said
tree,
tree, and then
fire,
fire,
s'mores.
s'mores. Yep.
We
So
got-
we're getting better.
we are.
We're on our way to the single word.
It's
We're on
coming.
our way.
You guys need to consistently listen. You don't want to miss out on that day.
Yep. On episode 170 of Dad in Real Life, you're gonna
We
get
will
the
hit.
one
You know
word.
what? Now someone's gonna reference this for the episode 170. We got to practice, man. We got to definitely hit it when we get there.
Yep. Yep. And I'm confident we will get there. So I'm excited for all of the other things that we're going to talk about in the
Exactly.
next
160 plus.
161 episodes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as a disclaimer, again, we're not experts.
We're not gurus.
We're
We
just
are just
dads in
dads
real
in
life.
real life.
That was good. I'll take
That
it.
was pretty good. That was great.